Should we start on your own brief? Rail strikes. They are continuing as far as ASLEF is concerned. We had their leader on earlier on in the week, and he says more strikes are likely. What's Labour's view?
Well, we're now well beyond the second year of the first national strike in over 30 years on our railways. And as I have repeatedly said, it is beholden on Mark Harper, the Transport Secretary, to get round the negotiating table and find an end to these strikes. As far as I'm aware, he's not met either ASLEF or the other rail unions in over a year since not Christmas just gone, but the Christmas before, which is a woeful dereliction of duty. And instead of attempting to resolve it, both he and his predecessor, Grant Shapps, have repeatedly attempted to politicise the dispute, trying to play political games, and it's passengers and the economy that have suffered as a result.
Government have said they've done all they can.
They've not been around the negotiating table, so it's hard to ascertain that Mark Harper can genuinely have done all he can if he won't sit down and talk about the issues with the unions directly. Indeed, I understand that he's actually been holding back the mandate from the train operating companies as well, so their hands are tied in finding a deal, and so we continue. It's a never-ending dispute that the government, it very much appears, completely refuses to resolve.
So you think that the government should be involved, even though these are private companies?
Well, the government very much controls the train operating companies. They set the management fees and the performance fees for those operators. Indeed, it already publicly owns 4 of the 14 TOCs in this country. So they have a lot of control over that. And the operators cannot negotiate with the unions without the mandate from the Department for Transport. So their hands are very much tied until the Secretary of State allows them the negotiating room, or he comes to the table and negotiates personally. It's absolutely within his gift, and rather than attempting to resolve it, he sees it as a political game that should be played with the opposition. And as I say, it's passengers and the economy at large that are paying the price.
Tell me about bus services.
So we're here today to set out Labour's plan to take back control of bus services in every corner of our country. At present, only London and very recently now Greater Manchester have the power to take back control of their bus networks. We're the only country in the developed world that allows, in vast swathes of the country, private operators the power to pick and choose whatever routes they want and set whatever fares they like, with absolutely no say for the communities that depend on them. So we think that every area of England should have the same powers as London and Greater Manchester to take back control, hold operators properly to account, and build public transport networks that actually work for the communities they serve. That will mean more bus services, it will mean they're more reliable, and through our plans we can actually create and save 1,300 additional routes in England and start to reverse the managed decline that we've seen over the last 14 years under the Tories.
They're not happy with you either this morning. We had the Health Secretary on the show, and she's very critical of Labour, saying for the last decade you've shut down debate on gender-critical views, and you have basically been stopping women saying what they think.
Well, I don't recognise that characterisation at all, and indeed I have many conversations on a regular basis with colleagues and friends and sisters across the Labour Party and across the Labour movement about this issue. We have been discussing it for years, but I do understand that colleagues and friends have felt unable to express their views, and I would always want the Labour Party to feel like a safe space for those views. But I do think it's important to draw a clear line between those who are gender critical and those who are causing harm through transphobic expression of views, and that's where I think the line always has to be drawn, because at the heart of this debate we always have to start from the fact that there are a very vulnerable group, particularly in like the Cass review, of children and young people, and we need to be sensitive to their needs and think about protecting them and protecting them from harm as well.
So at some level, Victoria Atkins has a point then, does she?
Well, The Tories have obviously been in government for more than a decade, so I'd say they have quite a serious role to play in setting the terms and the tone.
But it's about
of
the phrase.
debate,
Sorry to
and
interrupt you,
we've heard
Louise. But
from-
it's about the phraseology from people like the Shadow Home Secretary and saying a transgender man is a man, a transgender woman is a woman. Get over it. And he said just yesterday that he doesn't feel that anymore. He was incorrect to say that.
Well, look, I absolutely agree, and I think Wes Streeting was right to hold his hands up and say he was wrong to use language like "get over it." I don't think that is appropriate in any political discussion, but particularly one where the issues are so sensitive and so potentially impactful as they are in this one. So it's absolutely right for him to apologise for using any kind of language like that and attempts to sort of shut down debate. But I don't think that has been writ large in the wider debate within the Labour Party. I do very much feel, though, this issue has been incredibly toxic and incredibly harmful, and there have been bad faith actors on all sides, and that has not supported some of the most vulnerable children and young people in our country.
Representing a potential future Labour government this morning, whenever the election might come, what would you do about Julian Assange?
Well, that's very much a matter for President Biden. I would want to see the justice process play its way out, but I understand Prime Minister Albanese's request that he's been detained for 10 years, and that's a matter for President Biden now, but I would always personally want to see a justice process take its course.
So we should just leave him in Belmarsh until the Americans decide one way or the other?
Well, no, I would want to see him get a fair trial in a court of law.
Or not, especially if they decide to drop the charges or potential extradition charges against him. Louise Haigh, it's good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time. Thank you.